Good afternoon, Commissioners. Take your seats. Well, I don't know how to count. Please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a motion to approve the agenda?
Make that motion.
Okay. Been moved and supported. All those in favor, please vote appropriately. All right. Second item is approval of the minutes. Need approval of the minutes? So moved. Very good. Commissioner Leonetti, supported by Commissioner Romano. Please vote. Thank you very much. Public participation. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard? Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public? I see none. We'll close public participation. Item 6 is resolutions. Resolution pledging limited tax, full faith and credit for the Oakland-Macomb Interceptor Drainage District. We have Bryan Baker here from Public Works. You come up and give us an overview of what's happening. And
thank you, Commissioner Brown. Good afternoon, members. We've got the OMID sewer district, of which there are 11 Macomb communities are part of. We're seeking to refinance $5.1 million of our existing debt. The debt was issued back in 2010, and both Oakland and Macomb pledged their limited full faith and credit to get a better bond rating and a lower interest rate at that time. So now 8 years later, we're looking with the favorable interest rates that a portion of these bonds can be refinanced at a lower rate. And we're currently paying 4.7 to 5.9%. So this refinancing will lower the interest rate, and the bonds will continue to mature in 2030. This resolution seeks to continue the county's limited tax, full faith and credit pledge, and the refinance bonds will save 800,000 residents. There are sewer ratepayers money, and most of those people are in Macomb County. So all the bond issuance and the debt is paid by OMID, and the Drain Code authorizes this resolution. And finally, Oakland County will also be adopting a similar resolution soon. So with this pledge, there's never been a default on the drain bonds, and so there will be no impact on county general fund unless there is a default. But in that likely event, this authorizes the county treasurer to also seek collection of the unpaid funds from the community. And we have the OMID's bond counsel and financial advisor here as well, if there's any questions.
this is a pro forma. We've done this routinely throughout the years, and I'm glad to see that you're paying attention to this and continuing that tradition that does the right thing for the taxpayers as well as for the county's general finances. Need a motion to approve. Moved by Commissioner Gillette, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Any discussion? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Brian. Can you, I didn't see it in here, and I was trying to look through it earlier. You said that we have an interest rate that varies from 4.7 to 5.9, and that this could lower it, but I didn't see, is there an estimate of what it's going to lower it to?
Well, right now we're only about, well, a little less than $200,000 savings. So it all depends on how the market is tracking over the next several months. So right now it's in the money, but really we want to get going and make sure that the team is ready and able to jump once the interest rates are favorable. So it may save, you know, that proportion of $200,000 for all the different communities.
All right. And if for some reason the rates aren't favorable at the time we're ready to jump, obviously we're not going to jump, right?
Yep, we won't jump, and we don't owe our bond attorney or financial advisor any money because
Okay.
it's all contingent upon getting the deal done.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. To lead on the same lines, when you said as of today it'd be only like a $200,000 savings, is that savings overall? Or you
Yes,
said,
that's net savings after bond issuance costs.
Okay, and what is the bonds currently? What are they going for? The latest municipal bonds that went out.
These guys behind me could probably answer. It's probably in the 3-4% range.
Okay, and my next question is, if we're gonna have an overall savings of $200,000, if it was today, and hopefully they trend in a better direction for us, what is our cost for bond counsel and the whole bond process?
So those approvals were approved through the OMID Drainage District. So it's an hourly rate for the bond counsel, which is a market-driven rate. And the financial advisor is also, I don't have that number in front of me, but the board actually, the other OMID board approved those contracts.
Okay, does somebody have a rough idea that's here that can kind of tell me what it is?
Want to answer that, Steve?
Yeah, sir, these, financial fee on this, I believe, is about $12,000. And I think, just to add one more piece to this, these were recovery zone enterprise development bonds that were issued. These were taxable, that's why the rates are significantly higher. The U.S. Treasury gives a 45% rebate back on the interest that we're currently paying on these bonds. So the net of that 4.5 to 5.5% rate is minus 45%. Because of the sequester, it's actually 42% is what the rebate is now. And the Treasury changes that every year based on what the U.S. budget is. So the reimbursement rate going forward is up in the air. IRS estimates that it will continue to be less each year due to the sequester for this program.
Okay, well, now you confused me. So with that said, and that's easy, so don't think you're special that you confused me. At the end of the day, you said the financial is gonna be about 12 grand. Now, what about the actual attorneys? Do you know the approximately what that's gonna cost?
I'd have to pull out the fee schedule. I think it's in the neighborhood of 15,000, something like that.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, and then to go back again, you said the rebate. So right now, we're between 4.7 and 5.9. And it looks like possibly we can go down to 3 to 4 in that ballpark.
Yeah, we're expecting that we aren't gonna offer these unless we think the rates are at least 3 or lower. We wouldn't go higher than, I mean, as a net. So one of them might be lower, another, you know, you might have the longer bonds would be a little higher than the short ones. But we'd be looking for a net interest rate 3 or below. And that's what we had when we started working on this in December. The rates have gone up in the meantime. So we're just getting it ready. We won't go out, sell them until we're comfortable that we're gonna make those.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, motion's been made and supported. All those in favor say aye, or approve, please. Vote, please vote. Thank you, appreciate your time. Next item is correspondence. Need a motion to approve the correspondence. Moved by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Leonetti. Any questions? All those in favor, please vote. Thank you. Item 8A, Budget Amendment Capital Improvement Plan. Sheriff Wickersham.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Before you is a budget amendment plan and also seeking approval to enter into an agreement with Partners and Architect. Just way of history, we started this venture back in 2014 when we hired consultants to do a jail feasibility study and criminal justice analysis. 2016, we received the report. Reviewing the report, there were many recommendations in that report on the whole criminal justice system as a whole here in Macomb County. But I looked at two key features that really me as sheriff had some control over, and I picked on those two to move forward when dealing with prisoners at the Macomb County Jail. And one was developing a central intake. Building a central intake, we can do some early screening, do some stabilization, look at referrals and diversions of inmates, and also identifying those that are addicted and or had have mental health issues. The other aspect that I think we can do is we can develop a more robust pretrial screening process with our community corrections, and then dealing with prisoners that are coming in on the front end and assessing them and determine who needs to stay in jail and who doesn't. Last year we put out an RFP, and we had 4 companies that responded to that RFP. The objectives of that RFP, it was an architectural and engineering service RFP. We were looking for concept designs, schematic designs. We're looking to create a safe and humane environment in the county jail. We're looking at industry standards. We're looking to get a new mental health medical facility. And again, develop some programs to hold the addicted and the mental health individuals, and ultimately reduce recidivism here in Macomb County so that once they leave the jail, they don't come back. 4 companies responded to the RFP. We did 2 days worth of interviews, 2 a day. Our interview team consisted of myself, my chief of staff, John Roberts, my captain, Walt Zimney, our consultant that's been working with us for this project since 2014, Jim Robertson. We had Barb Caskey from Community Corrections, Steve Adair from the Finance, our chairman Bob Smith sat on the interview panel, our panel. Commissioner Carabelli was there for 2 of the presentations. Lynn sat on the panel, and we also had 2 judges, Judge Shepard from 41A District Court and Judge Kathy Viviano from the Circuit Court. After the interviews, each of these 4 vendors put together what we believed were strong teams in not only the architectural, the design, but some of the program type teams. And one of the things that we decided to do is each one was interviewed, and at the end of the interview, we asked them for a fee schedule that was sealed in an envelope so that when we picked the best team for this project, we did not know who was the high bidder, who was the low bidder, or even what the bids were. When we were doing the interviews and we wanted to select this team, we wanted the best team for Macomb County. And at the end of the process, the team, it was unanimous that Partners and Architect, and here today is the principal, Mike Malone, if you have any questions. We picked Partners and Architect, and when we opened up the fee schedule, they were the lowest out of the other 3 bidders.
Before we proceed, I need a motion on this. I have a motion. Commissioner Lucido, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Okay. Discussion?
The only thing else I would say is they they put together a very, very strong team of national experts as it relates to the criminal justice system, to the courts, to mental health, and we do look forward of working with their team. The one thing that we really felt strongly about their presentation and the team that they put together is they have some innovative ideas. We didn't tell them, and through this whole project, I don't want to tell somebody what to do. I want somebody to come back and tell me that this is the best way that we should be dealing with it, and this is how we can get here. And PIA rose to the top. So I would ask for your support.
Thank you. Crystal, this thing. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think this question may be more to our Chair Smith or the rest of the board, because this issue obviously predates my election, looking at what we're going to do about in making our jail up to, in bringing our jail up to date and so forth. And I'm not sure what commitments the county has made so far, or final decisions the county has made so far as to what we're going to do about the jail in general. I mean, we heard the presentation last year, and there was some debate, do we need a new jail? And no, we don't need a new jail, and we just need revisions. Have we, as a county, and forgive me if I missed this, made a decision as to how much we're going to spend and what we're going to do to solve our problem moving forward? So whether it's Sheriff Smith or Sheriff Wickersham.
Yeah, no,
Sheriff Wickersham.
let me take that one, Commissioner. If you look at the history and what we've done over the last 5 years, we've spent about $15 million in renovating the current campus and the jail, putting money into the 1950s and 1960s. My belief, my team's belief, and even the study has said that the money in the tower, which is 840 beds that we put, that tower is going to get us another 25, 30 years. So that's 840 good beds that we need. The older sections, the 1950s, the 60s, the 70s, they're old, they're outdated, they're indirect supervision, a lot more liability, there's more industry standards. Direct supervision is kind of the direction to go. So part of this proposal that we put out would be some type of demolition of those older sections and stand up a new central intake, which was part of the proposal, and increase a better mental health.
So did the county then agree to a budget for the jail renovation? Or do we, or agree to a, I guess you could say a specific plan yet at this point?
Well, this would be the second part, really the first part of it, is to get this PIA involved and to give us a good hard look into the facility, how we could reach our goals and what's the best way to reach the goals, and come up with a solid dollar sign along with the staffing, at which point I would come back to this body and ask for approval. We have not committed to anything at this point.
Okay, so this stage is the stage where you're putting together a more concrete plan that you would then come back before the county and look for approval of that particular plan.
That's the ultimate goal, is to come back in front of this body at some point when the study is done and come back with solutions and come back with a hard dollar sign to figure out how we're going to get there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that you are putting together a path to getting where we need to go. I just want to be a little bit aware as commissioners that we, you know, that we know what we're sort of, what kind of path we're heading down, what kind of cost there's going to be. I'd hate to see us, you know, a year from now coming back and saying, well, here's what this study recommends, and we haven't really come up with a way of how we're going to pay for what's being recommended or anything along those lines, and yet we've already committed, you know, $1.2 million to developing the proposal. I just hope that, you know, I hope that we're not putting a couple $1 million into something that we haven't fully committed to yet, or figured out how we're going to pay for yet. And so that, and then a year from now we come back and say, well, we just can't throw away that money, and we end up like the Wayne County Jail situation, not nearly that bad. But, you know, we've already sunk a bunch of money into a bunch of proposals and plans, but we end up not really having come up with a proposal how to pay for it. So I guess that's just my thoughts and concerns. I not have any specifically concern about this particular entity. I just hope that we are prepared to put a couple $1 million essentially into something that we don't know how we're going to pay for and what the end result is really going to be at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To echo Commissioner Drollet, I agree. This is going to cost money. And to find out what you need, you have to spend money. So to digress just a little bit, I participated in the one day of the interviews, and I was quite impressed with the different ideas that the other firms had came up with. And I'm sure the sheriff and his team were listening to the different ideas, not that we would ever poach somebody else's ideas and incorporate them into something that we would do. But you take those best practices from all over the United States, the world, and you try to implement them what you have. And Lynn's sitting in the back of the room, and at the end of the day, I can say in the last 10 years, it's probably been close to about $22 million we've put into that jail as Band-Aids, strictly Band-Aids. And I wanted to say it was a $29 million package we put together trying to get in on the infrastructure when the program was going to come out and the money didn't go to that, so there's major issues that have to be taken care of. Me personally, I'm a guy, if you don't replace it brand new, you're going to have problems down the road on something, where you tear it down, go to a new site and build new. That's just me personally, not that I'm right. After talking to a couple of different experts, it's probably about $60 million more to do it my way. But I also try to look at the bigger picture at 20,000 feet down the road, what is the best way to do it? I don't know that answer. So to find out what needs to be done over there, he has to go through this process of hiring an architect to come up with what needs to be done to do that research on the facility itself. Put the schematics together, see what this is gonna cost before he comes back and says, hey, and don't hold me to any numbers, I need $150 million to do this to the jail, or I need $200 million for a new one, whatever those numbers may be. He can't tell you anything until he spends the upfront money to do that research. No one's gonna do that for free, unless somebody does wanna do it for free, I'm all in too. So the whole process of this is really driven of, now you do your real research, what can be salvaged, what has to be rebuilt, what can be taken into account, where the sheriff had mentioned about diversion. There was a lot of discussion about other programs that they don't have to go to the actual jail. They go to these other treatment programs. I don't know all the different names of them all. So that whole process, yes, it's gonna cost money. I don't like it. I understand it. I appreciate him coming forward. This is something that's gonna come forward. In the meantime, start doing a little soul searching. Is this something, we're gonna look at going out to a vote to the people? Is this something we're looking at bond internally? This is a pretty big project, probably the biggest one this county is gonna see in a long time, or will see in a long time. And this is one thing by law we are required to have as a jail.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So let me finish. So with that said, we need to talk about now with, if the finance director can come up and explain to us, combination of the last item that came here of $800 and some thousand. Now we're a total of $2,066,500 that has to be paid for. And neither of these items were budgeted. So my question is, that we're gonna need to have answered, is where did we leave off at the $13 million that was left in the capital project fund? How much money is allocated that is going to be spent, and how much money needs to go in there from the general fund? Did you get a chance to take a look at that yet?
No, not yet. I'm working on that. You asked for it by Wednesday. My hope was to have it done for this afternoon. Didn't get there, but my answers are the same as they were Thursday. So this item was not in the capital plan, as you correctly pointed out. We're coming now in conjunction with the contract to be kind of proactive. The 13 million is essentially all spoken for. You asked for that list. I'm working on it. So we're just trying to get out in front of this, because we'll need this $1.2 million. We'll need the 800,000 for the jail bunks.
$2,066,500.
Yep. And we will need, for the most part, all of the 7 million that we originally put in the 2018 budget. So.
Well, you're saying put in the budget, but this wasn't budgeted for, so this changes
Right, we'll
everything.
need the 7 million, the 13 million, and the 2 million for these two items.
Okay, so are we gonna be able to get all that by Wednesday to have a good understanding of where this is gonna be for us to make a decision?
I'm confident I can get there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Carabelli. Commissioner Smith. No, excuse me, Commissioner Leonetti, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, good to see you. If I could have Mr. Malone come up, just a couple questions to Mr. Malone. Thanks. I'm not going to vet you because I know the sheriff's vetted you already. I just have a couple questions. Sure. I note that you're located in Mount Clemens, your principal office. How long have you been in Mount Clemens?
13 years.
Okay. I'm also looking at, I think it's on our thing, it's like a final exhibit A. You have like some basic services that you utilize. Most of them are Michigan, but some of them are out state. Is there a reason for that? Like there's a hardware installer that's like in Virginia. Is there a reason?
Yeah, I can explain. We have a diverse team of professionals, experts in this type of work. So we've recruited the best people we could find in the entire country, to be honest with you.
Okay.
We have a large firm out of New York.
I saw that.
Who's designed over 500 jails across the country and other countries. We have a programming consultant also in New York who's done about 200 of these types of facilities and has a specialty in medical and mental health. And the hardware consultant is one that they typically use, but he's an expert in, you know, correctional type hardware. And that's a very small piece of our project, but it's a necessity that we couldn't find here locally.
Okay, fair enough. Last question is in regard to the certificate of liability insurance. I note that the policy went into effect on February 15th, 2018. Was this something that after you got the bid that you had to
No,
procure?
that's our yearly renewal date.
Okay.
Is February 15th. Yeah.
Okay, so you renew every year, and here I see that you've named the holder Macomb County as it relates to your insurance for this particular
We've
project.
put the language that was required in the RFP and the
Gotcha.
certificate. Yes.
Okay, okay. Have nothing further. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chairman Smith.
Thank you. A couple of things. To Commissioner Drolette's point about, you know, what are we going to do? We haven't committed this money. And it's a thought that needs to be brought out, because if I'm not mistaken, and Jim and Tony and Lynn, you guys, we did a study, not to this depth, but I mean a jail study quite some year, I mean maybe 15, 20 years ago, that we paid for and really didn't really use, right? I mean, so there is some, you know, some merit in questioning and making sure that we're going to, I mean, as a board, as a sheriff department, as the executives are going to, you know, move forward with this. But I don't, you know, the problem obviously comes to where are we getting the funding from, and, you know, where are we going to, are we millage? Is it going to be bond? We certainly aren't going to be doing out of general fund. So those are questions that need to be addressed. However, I'll get part of this, I think, is driven, or at least seem to tie in really well with the indigent defense program that the state has mandated, where, you know, early intervention with attorneys on criminals, or, I mean, arrestees.
First appearances, yes.
Mental health options earlier than, you know, 30 days after they've been sitting in jail, realizing that, you know, these people probably should be somewhere else. So I think that this kind of ties right in, and we see that from these groups that have been up, or that came to us, that they're doing a lot of this all around the country. I don't know if we're catching up or we're kind of in the early stages of it, but we've really seen some. Well, one of the things I noted during the interview process was at least one of the companies, and I think it was even more than that, noticed almost a 50% reduction in jail beds being full with this type of early intervention program. So where there are costs involved, there are some implied savings down the line with less criminals actually being behind bars and less tax dollars paying for them. So, and you can get more of that, I think, from probably Partners in Architecture. I think they might have had that statistic. I'm not sure. I know a few of the groups did, where they've done so many of these in the past that they were able to show a significant savings on the other side of things too. So that's just for the future, you know, for your taxpayers when the time comes. This was a pretty incredible group, I have to say. And Commissioner Carabelli was there the first day, and there was a couple groups that went the first day, and I remember him saying, well, there's no one going to beat these two. And then Partners in Architecture came in the next day, and quite honestly, amazingly, because the first two groups were very good, even, you know, gave us a new level, you know, in which to look at this from. And they did go from all across the country. Most of these groups brought in experts. So it wasn't Partners in Architecture and the local groups they normally work with to build a building here. It was, they reached out all across the country, brought the best of the best in, as did most of, really all of the groups that came in here. So it was a very interesting process. I think it was handled very well, and it was very fortunate that the group that everybody picked unanimously as the best also had the lowest bid. I'm sure they were second thinking, you know, that bid after that. I'm just kidding. But we appreciate it, and you guys had a fantastic program. I hope that the rest goes as well.
Thank you.
Oh, Sheriff, I'm sorry, one more thing. And I understand why, because this was an interesting bid process, but the bid quotes are supposed to be included in these. So if you could get a copy of all of the quotes for us from all the different groups. I know it wasn't a low bid type of thing, but just so that we have it in our records. All four, please.
You'll have them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Sheriff. Nice to have you here. Thank you. You know, I'm always about the money. I don't, maybe it's that Italian upbringing in me, but I'm always about the money. You know, and it's refreshing to see that not only did they unanimously agree upon this company, as Chair Smith said, but theirs was the least cost proposal of the 3 bids coming in. So we got the best and the lowest cost proposal, which I think is something to be said. And in response to Commissioner Drolette's, and I agree, it's a lot of money to come up with for a study that maybe we don't use today. It's a study that we can build a foundation on if we want to use it shortly tomorrow, being whatever year that might be. But it's something that we can see in front of us. Personally, I think, I'm not an architect, that's a lot of money. But if it's something that we can use in the future and don't have to go through again, maybe just do some housekeeping on it, I think we're getting a big bang for our buck, and I appreciate the committee's work on this. That's all I have. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano. Commissioner Sauger.
Yeah, Sheriff, I'm just curious, 2 things. What's the population? Are we close to overfilling right now?
We're right under, we have 1,200 and I think it's 18 rated design capacity. We're right about 1180, 1190.
It's getting close.
It's getting close.
Okay, my other question is, I always was curious, and there's so much of it going on with drugs, how much of your population do you feel are drug-related?
I always use around 73% are incarcerated because they use drugs, sell drugs, commit crimes while under the influence of drugs.
You'd think they'd get back to the old crimes again, instead of drugs.
Drugs, yep.
Okay.
It's amazing. Yep.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first, I recognize that we have a need at the jail, and I appreciate the sheriff taking the time out to walk me through the facility and explain what the needs are. And I appreciate the good work that the committee did. And I have no doubt in my mind that this is a good firm and it was vetted very carefully and so forth. I just a little bit befuddled by the process where we've got a request coming to us for almost $2 million that wasn't even considered at the time of the budget for some odd reason. It wasn't even thought that this could be an issue. And we're moving down a path that we didn't create a budget for the path. We didn't create a determination like, okay, we as a county are willing to spend up to X to address the jail issue, and we're going to finance it through Y. And then now we're going to create a path to get there. Instead, we're walking down the path without knowing what the destination is with enough certainty from the way I look at it. You know, we're again, this is probably an excellent firm with the best possible bid, and it was vetted very carefully, and it addresses a need. Yet we, as a county, have not made a determination of what we are willing to do and how we're willing to pay for it. So I just wish that that was taking place at some point, that we had come together with a plan to how we're going to deal with our jail issue, how we're going to fund the jail issue, and then started walking toward that result, as opposed to walking down this path hoping we end up with a plan at some point and figure out a way to pay for it at some point. So that's just my concern, but nothing specific to the sheriff or this firm. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you. Couple real quick things. Sheriff, if once approved or if approved and finance director can find the funds, what's the process time-wise? Do we have a guesstimation of what, 1-2 years?
Well, we're looking, this project has probably a 4 to 6 month window. So we'd be looking at maybe the fall to come back. We would have the hard numbers. If not the fall, right after the first of the year. And again, depending on which route we go as far as funding. If it has to go out, we're talking probably sometime in 19. I would think we probably wouldn't have a shovel in the ground till 2020. And then, again, I'm not the construction expert, but I think probably a 3-year project.
Okay. On that note, and I appreciate that, leads into the next thing. We're not going to know what this comes in, sort of where Commissioner Drolette was talking about. We don't know how to budget because we don't know what it's going to come in at. Not knowing into this process what these bids were going to come in until we sat down, so it's kind of hard to put a budget on it. My question is to be proactive. I guess this would go along with the executive's office and finance. Would this be something simultaneously in the process of the design for us to look at the opportunities for which direction the county would like to go? So when it does come time, we have an option of A, B, and C, depending on what the dollar figures are, so that we can kind of get an idea of saying, okay, are we going to go out for a proposal? Are we going to try to fund this ourselves? What's our capability under the cap? This is something where, again, I don't want to wait 6 months for your process to come back in the fall, then we take another 6 months to figure out how we're going to pay for it. I'd rather kind of simultaneously parallel. I know we don't know the number, but we can get a guesstimate within a ballpark. Is that something that we can do at the same time?
If I may, from the back row, I think there's going to be a series of presentations along the way as this project evolves. It's far too important. It's going to cost a lot of money, and this commission will be brought along every step of the way. Okay, it's not about building what we're comfortable spending.
No.
It's about building what we need, and then determining the cost, and see where we go from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Carabelli. Commissioner Myjack.
Thank you to
on the
Sheriff
first round.
Thanks to Sheriff Wickersham or the architecture. Do you guys have any inkling where we're going to be on cost? I know it's early. Are we talking? I mean, I've heard numbers in the past, 80 million. I've heard 200 million, and I'm not qualified at all to come up with a number at all. Like that.
Again, only off the top of my head, and then I'll use something that we can use in comparison. We're thinking between 150 and maybe 200 million. But I can tell you, we back in 2005 came in front of this commission, and I think the price tag at that point, and it wasn't the exact same, but it was for some demolition and for a new tower, was around 92 million.
And that's a big range. Well, I guess the costs go up, right, from 92 million. How long ago was that, 10 years?
2005. 2005,
okay. Okay. And can I ask a question through the chair to Mr. Schmiegel, if we can? If a number like that came out, where are we going to get that money from as a department director of finance? 150 to 200 million, the only two options I can think of, correct me if I'm wrong, is some type of bonding or proposal to the voters, if you will.
Yeah, we would most certainly have to go to the vote of the people to get a bond.
Okay.
A millage to pay for the bonds. We'll have to bond for it.
Okay.
Another thing to keep in mind, we don't know where this will ultimately go. I would certainly think that if we do go to a vote of the people, we get the millage, we build the jail, that the schematic design cost would be eligible bond issue costs that would be reimbursed to the general fund if that were to happen. Okay. But to answer your direct question, we'd have to have a millage.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you,
I'm not finished. I will cautiously right now support this, but very hard for me just because when you look at the public sector, it's about scarce resources. We have limited tax revenue for projects, and we did support a project just last month, a resolution that we urge more funding for roads instead of the RTA. And I know that has nothing to do with the jail, but there are limited funds out there, and that's just where I'm coming across, Sheriff Wickersham. I can look at, would we rather bond or have a tax proposal for 200 million in roads or 200 million for a jail project? It's very difficult and very hard. So that's what's on my mind going forward, but I will cautiously support this right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Myjack. Commissioner Duje.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been listening to some of the repartee going back and forth here. I agree with Commissioner Romano. I don't want to spend money that we don't have buying things we don't need to impress people we don't like. Period. That being said, we've talked about the jail for 10 plus years. And the question was, do we knock the thing down or do we build a new one? And if I'm not mistaken, 10 years ago, the question was, do we knock it down? And I think the cost was in around $90 to $100 million. Now we are in 2018. This isn't going to get started until 2020. This is a study to how much it's going to cost without knocking the whole place down. In 2008 or 9, we spent in around $3 million, correct me if I'm wrong, to redo the kitchen. Because we were given bag lunches, and that was costing us more than doing the kitchen routine. I think this is a good idea to get final numbers. We don't know what it's going to cost us, but we do know we need it. This has been a question on everybody's mind for years. Come on. If somebody's surprised by this, then maybe you don't subscribe to the Macomb Daily. But that being said, we need the jail. We're going to end up bonding for it because they're really, this isn't going to come out of petty cash or out of somebody's department. So that being said, finding out what the real numbers are, will it be between 150 to 200 million? That's probably realistic, but let's get the real numbers once they get into it, dig into it, and see if we can get a better deal someplace else. That being said, I support this. I think it's a good idea, and it's been a long time coming. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just be brief. I mean, most of us recall there was a study here about 2-3 months ago where the gentleman came forward and said, look, there's about 9 different things you need to do. And the top 3 things was, number 1 was dealing with pretrial services. And if I recall the sheriff being here 3 months ago, we talked about this wing at the jail that's going to, as he indicated here today, it's going to deal with the mental health issues, the people who have addiction problems. And the idea is that we have services initially to free us so that we don't fill up our beds to capacity. So I agree with what you're saying, Commissioner Drollet. I agree with MyJack that there's limited funds. Nobody wants to spend the money. But this is one of those cases where we have to spend a little bit of money to save money, unfortunately, and that's just the way it's got to be. So I do support it. I'm looking forward to seeing the designs. I know, as Deputy Executive Delden said, this is going to be incremental, so it's not like we're committed to one certain plan at this point going forward. But do keep in mind that study that came forward gave us 3 top things. I think number 1 was you got to do something about pretrial services. I think the other thing was to fight the prosecutor a little bit more. And I think the third thing was, dealing again with mental health issues. So I do support this and looking forward to seeing the plans. Thank you.
Mr. Sauger, do you have anything? All right, very good.
Well, I will say this, when you mentioned the county jail, there's places that I worked in there, Sheriff, that I wish would be tore down. Okay? Thank you.
They got logs in
The
there.
original one was there, Marvy.
At that log cabin portion of it. All right. Motion's been made and supported. Any other speakers? Mr. Smith? Chairman Smith?
Yeah, I just do want to point out that, although we're moving this forward, we're still going to talk to Steve, because I don't think, and this, Sheriff, this has nothing to do with the study and moving forward with it as far as we're concerned, but I'm sure that it was not my intention, nor was it anybody else's on this, on the appropriations ordinance, to take new money from general fund while there was still money in the capital projects fund. So that's something that still needs to be worked out. But moving this forward, I just wanted to point that out. Steve's going to get back to us on this on Wednesday, but that's something I do want to point out that's still out there that I don't think is the proper way to go about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with you. All those in favor, please vote. 40, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you for your team.
Thank you all.
Item B is the contract for the partnership and architect. With the separate motion to approve that contract and forward it to finance. I need a motion to support that. Commissioner, forward it. Commissioner Leonetti, supported by Commissioner Tocco. All those in favor, please vote. What? Yes, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you. I'd like to disclose to the board that about 10 years ago, the company I work for has worked with the architect in the past, though I have no financial interest and it won't influence my decision in any way. I'd like to disclose that to the board.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your disclosure. All those in favor, please vote. Thank you. Item C is a cost share agreement between Sterling Heights and the Macomb County Department of Roads. Mr. Santo, please give us a summary of what's going on here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. What was that for?
All right.
Just seeking approval for a cost share and participation agreement with this City of Sterling Heights for the crossover construction traffic signals at Eastbound and Westbound Metro Parkway, just east and west of Mound Road. This cost share agreement basically states that City of Sterling Heights will pay for the upgrade to black mast arms in their community. It is estimated at two locations, $40,000 each, for a total of estimated cost of $80,000 that they will pay for. The actual installation and maintenance will be 100% Department of Roads, with this additional mast arm cost being borne on the City of Sterling Heights.
Very good. Thank you. Need a motion? All right. Commissioner Myjack? Support. All those in favor, please vote. Okay. Item D, a cost sharing agreement with the Sterling Heights again.
Yes, asking for approval for a cost share agreement and participation agreement with City of Sterling Heights once again for northbound Mound at the crossover 300 feet south of Center Drive, installation of a traffic signal. Basically a cost share agreement sharing 50% with Department of Roads and 50% with City of Sterling Heights.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Lucido, supported by Commissioner Myjack. All those please vote. Who represents Utica? Gotta get them uncalled. Motion passes. Item E, contract with Dan's Excavating.
Yes, seeking approval of a contract with Dan's Excavating for a construction project for the removal of a Pardee Street Bridge over the channel to Lake St. Clair in Harrison Township. I figured you would, Commissioner Lynn.
Supported by Commissioner Kraft. Any questions on that?
I do have one question, I'm sorry. Real quick. Spring, a lot of boaters will be happy.
Yes, as soon as we can get this approved. Dan's Excavating is a little better, so once we get this contract back and approved, they will be out there in
Gotcha.
spring.
Thanks.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Spring now.
Well, we had spring in January and February. So.
Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While we have the director up here, I'd like to ask a very quick question.
On what subject? Not relating to this contract?
Well, it's a contract to do with roads.
No, on this contract only.
Okay.
All right. I mean, we'll ask him another question, but, all right. So all those in favor on the contract, say aye.
Please vote.
All right, thank you. Okay. Commissioner Carabelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Sue in your office. She was helping me deal with a constituent issue in Commissioner Kraft's district. The name of the road escapes me, though. It is Executive. Commerce. And I've talked to JP as well in Economic Development. After I communicated all the information that your office did a great job, they just wanted to hear it again from somebody else. It was then asked, when are we going to fill the potholes there? So with that said, if it's, I'm sorry, you said Commerce Drive?
Yes, sir.
Commerce Drive in Chesterfield Township. Obviously, we're not going to be redoing this. Okay. If this can, they can start the process of filling the potholes, everybody there would be much appreciated. Thank you. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Brian Santo. Appreciate you. Oh, all right, go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. I hope you're not in a hurry. No, I'm just kidding. Since both of you are here in the executive's office here, I went to the press conference this morning about the web site that you guys have online for the roads. Very impressive. It was very informative, and it was depressing all at the same time. Just for the commissioners that weren't here, maybe, I don't know if it's JP or if you want to just speak to it real quick. I mean, it's a quick site. It's super interactive. There's really not much to say about it. Just go on and look at it. But do you have anything that you could run through the commissioners about it?
Basically, what Executive Hackle was making reference to was a online mapping tool that the public can go on the website or an iPad, pull up information on whether it's the county in general, Macomb County, whether it's a particular township specifically, or a section of road that they can basically click on a section of road, and it will show you the estimated cost to fix that road to bring it up to a good condition. Basically, it was the fact that over half of our county-owned and maintained roads, paved roads, are over half in the poor condition section as far as the PACER ratings. We have about 20% in the good, 30% in fair, and a little over 50 in poor condition. So basically, this is a site that kind of shows a total of all roads in poor condition, and that total between that and bridges that are in repair need also, it total over $1 billion in dollars, current dollars, to get those roads from red to green, which is poor condition to good condition.
And on a note of that too, that doesn't include all the subdivisions.
That's correct. That is just our county and primary roads, not including subdivisions, which obviously would hike that cost up significantly.
Bridges?
Well, the bridges was a part of it.
Bridges was part of that. So it's basically just an interactive tool that the public can go on. It shows our active projects, our proposed projects, and then any segment of road or bridge that they can click on and see an estimated cost, current dollars of what it would take to repair that.
And it was nice. It actually broke down the roads into small segments too, just to show that the repair costs. I mean, it wasn't just Mound Road cost this much. It was little tiny sections, which was, I mean, it was really interactive. And the worst part about it, though, I think, was that as fast as we can make the red roads green, the yellow roads are turning to red even faster with the amount of funding that we have. So I mean, we're going downhill fast, and unfortunately, it seems like it's going in exponentially the wrong way right now. So it was a very interesting and kind of depressing, I mean, great, but depressing view on what's going on around here with infrastructure.
It was a reality check to the public and others, community leaders, to show that obviously what we're taking in right now, like you said, we're going backwards. You know, we're making improvements to the poor roads to make them good, but then the fair roads are turning to poor in a higher percentage than we can keep up with the current funding. So obviously there's a need in Macomb County of over $1 billion just for our local and primary roads. So, I mean, that speaks volumes.
Well, it's a good thing you've already lost your hair, right? I mean,
Thank you.
I don't know how you could do it. It's got to be a tough position.
You can't go down here in a smart head, Commissioner.
Thank you. Saw that chloride they used on the roads back in Zuri's career. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Santo. Appreciate your time and opportunity. Thank you for commenting. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Next up is item E, budget amendment.
John, I got a question. I got a comment to make.
Okay.
Bryan, we've had some great department heads up here. We've had some now, we had some that retired, but nobody's taken the arrows and bows that you have taken during this period, so you're doing a phenomenal job. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Sorry, Commissioner Sauger, missed you there. All right, item 8F is a budget amendment for Great Lakes Restoration. JP, take over.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Appreciate it. Commissioner Romano told me I had 5 minutes, so let's get going, folks. We found $200,000 from the U.S. Forest Service and the EPA through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative to expand the Green Macomb program. What we hope to do is not only expand the Green Macomb Urban Forest Partnership to promote the implementation using the county's pass-through model on these funds. As we receive the grant dollars from the feds, we give them to the locals to have the ability to plant 1,200 trees throughout our county on public lands. These are 1 to 2 inch caliber street trees and park trees. And we partner with the locals not only to develop the funding to develop the planning strategies, which we've put together through past awards. But it also then gives us the ability to host 4 volunteer tree plantings in partnership with Relief Michigan, continue our partnership meetings with our coordinating the strategic tree planting initiatives that we have. And then one of the cool things that we're going to do is kind of going back to the old Dave Bonnier method, is we're going to distribute 4,000 seedlings to elementary students through the Lake St. Clair Water Festival in partnership with the Blue Water Conservation District. Expanding the Conservation District's educational programming through Macomb County, which was a great lead that Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Carabelli gave us the opportunity to connect into that organization. All totaled, if we have the opportunity to deploy these funds by establishing the Green Macomb Urban Forestship Partnership, we would have the ability to bring in $761,000 of grant dollars to the county. I will yield to any questions.
May you and all the other departments emulate your active way of getting money to the county. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any questions on this? Need a motion to approve. Commissioner Bryce, supported by Gillette, supported by Leonetti. Any other questions? Commissioner Gillette?
Thank you, and thank you, John Paul. The questions, I remember when we received a grant, it was this grant or a similar grant last year. Does this represent an increase of what we got last year? Is it another one like the one we got last year? What does it look like as far as total dollars compared to last year?
They love our program and keep giving us more money. Last year, the award was $188,000 with $150,000 local match from the communities actually doing the work. The whole process got jump-started in 2016, in which we received a $20,000 grant award and a $33,000 local grant match to develop all the tree planting strategies. So each community in this urban forest partnership actually received resources saying, this is not only how you just start to plant trees, but this is how you develop a systematic approach to regreening and vegetating the county.
So again, what does this represent compared to last year?
So this is an increase. Last year was $188,000. This year it's $200,000.
Okay, so it's a $12,000 increase.
Yes, sir.
From last year.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if it keeps going up, can we use any money toward a jail facility over time?
If there are trees there, we can talk about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Tocco.
Thank you. Is this part of the program with St. Clair County to sell the trees?
Yep.
And can you just give us some information? I know that I saw something on Facebook from your department. When is that? And the form was not easily downloadable.
Thank you for the insight on that. I will check on that. On the county's main webpage at macombgov.org, you will see all the information about the spring tree planting. I believe pre-orders are due by April the 5th, so you can go in, download the program. We're also looking at digitizing that process so folks can go to an external website and actually order trees that way. So Jerry and our team is working on that, and what I can do is to get some more information about the tree planting and when it's actually going to be held.
So how does that work if we want to share that with members of our community? They go on and they pre-order them. And I noticed you had columns like in groups of 5 and groups of 10. Is there a limit? What's available? I mean, that was all very unclear.
That is a fantastic question. I'd have to go check back with the team to get you some clarification on that.
Okay.
But what I could say is the easiest way to get information on this is not only going to the Green Macomb website as opposed to the county's webpage, because on the Green Macomb website, there's additional information there about the tree planting, and it can connect you into the conservation district. But I'll make sure to follow up and get some more information on the tree planting.
So who is Green Macomb?
Green Macomb is our initiative. So through this, what we've ultimately done is under the moniker of all our environmental stewardship programs, we've branded them as Green Macomb. It's a good idea. It's a good way of getting us notoriety in the communities and give it that brand that when we go into locals, if it's under the banner of Green Macomb, you know that we're going to bring in additional grant dollars and have the ability to facilitate these programs with multiple partners, whether it's Relief Michigan, whether it's the Conservation District, whether it's ITC. These folks understand that this is a programmatic platform that not only has gotten credibility at the state and federal level, but has given us the ability to actually access dollars. The program is facilitated through our Department of Planning and Economic Development, but we've had tremendous partnership, whether it's with the Department of Roads, whether it's with Public Works, and we're continually looking to refine the strategy.
Okay, so it's not a 501. It's something through your department.
Just a program platform.
Okay, thank you. And if you could get back to me, there's some members of my community who've asked about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think, Commissioner, those 5 and 10s are bunches, just by the groups in bunches, because they're just seedlings, so you get a group of 5s and 10. I think that's what they're referring to, but he'll get with you on that. Commissioner.
The pricing was, I mean, if you bought one, it was $5. If you bought 100, if it was $15 or something, it just didn't. it was a little bit confusing.
Well, I have to buy a bunch, because between the deer and the cattle eating them, it's hard to get them enough of them to grow, so I gotta plant a lot of them out there, so buying by the hundreds is helpful to me. Commissioner Gillette, you have a question?
Just a real quick request, John Paul. It would be possible at a future meeting, when you got a little time, to kind of give us a little recap of what we did with the money last year, so we could kind of see where it went and how it was spent and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? Commissioner Druzia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope we have something to stay out of the power grid, because ITC, I'd hate to see all this planted and ITC to come in and clear cut the whole
Duly
stupid
noted.
thing. As long as that's in the instructions someplace. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else? The motion's been made and supported. All those please vote. Thank you very much for your report. Very good.
Thank you.
Well done.
Appreciate it, Commissioners.
Well done. Item G is Lynn Arnott Bryks from the Facilities Department. I've got a bypass item, a contract with Delta Temp. I need a motion to approve. This is going to be forwarded to Finance.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Any discussion? Yes, sure. Please come up and explain what's going on.
I certainly apologize for having to utilize the bypass, but the air handler is a major component of the HVAC equipment. It regulates and controls the flow of air. Also within the air handlers are cooling coils and steam coils. So we essentially get the heating and cooling from this air handler. This air handler, when we inspected it, we noticed the deterioration of some of the coils. When we measured the efficiency, it was running 5 to 7 degrees higher, which means it's losing efficiency, and we were concerned about getting through the entire cooling season with this air handler. This air handler serves the northeast portion of the court building, floors 2 through 6. And we'd like to take the opportune time to replace it is when you're in between seasons. This is a longer lead item, so we would like to take advantage of this time frame.
Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor, vote appropriately. Thank you. Item 9 is a presentation from a Centerline Schools wall-to-wall career activities. Eve Kaltz. I need a motion to receive and file this item for Commissioner Sauger, supported by Commissioner Myjack. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Thank you for allowing us to be here. My name is Eve Kaltz. I'm the superintendent of Centerline Public Schools, which is down on the south end of the county. I had the privilege of attending the Macomb County Business Awards breakfast, where we heard from a Ford NGL leader, and they talked about career academies, and I went back to the office and spoke to the two assistant superintendents about coming to share our story, and here we are. We work closely with the city of Centerline and Warren because we serve in the school district, both part of Warren and the city of Centerline. And that was evidenced when we were able to pass a $53.7 million bond initiative. That bond work, you can see on the second page of the handout, will be doing a lot in the district, but most importantly, will allow us to build safety and security updates for all of our buildings. It will be a 3-point entry system through all of the buildings. Many years ago, we had a student that came to our middle school as a 6th grader, and we got to know this student. He came with lots and lots of hurdles to overcome, but he wasn't an angry student. He was just kind of apathetic about his learning. And the staff really wrapped around him. We provided basic needs for him, as well as supported him in his learning and in any way that we could. And he was a senior, and I was over at the high school and happened to run into him. And I said, what's the plan for next year? And he kind of shrugged and said, I have nothing. And I said, well, I don't understand that. What does that mean? And he said, Miss Kaltz, you and I both know if you don't go to college, you're nothing. And I stood and spoke to him for a few more minutes about tapping into our counselors, and I told him I'd make an appointment for him to speak to his counselor, and we'd make sure he had a direction. But then I walked back across the parking lot feeling more defeated than I have in the 30 years of my career in Centerline. And I met with Lisa and Andrew and said, we're going to reimagine our high school because we are committed to making sure that every one of our students is on the path for a successful future. These are some of the things we've done in the district, but Lisa and Andrew are going to give you more information about the career academies of Centerline.
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
So our students in ninth grade attend a ninth grade academy, and that's, you've probably heard of that happening in other districts. We saw the power of the ninth grade academy and teachers wrapping around those students and making that transition from middle school to high school a little bit easier. We began to look at how could we take that idea of the academies and make that beneficial to the other students in our schools. We traveled to Nashville, we traveled to Pinellas County, we did a lot of research on how do high schools help students to understand the importance of seeing their future while they're still in high school. If you have a teenager, you know that you can tell them something over and over and over again, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, or they don't want to believe it unless they discover that on their own. And so that is kind of the premise of the Career Academy. So in front of you, you have a brochure of our wall-to-wall academies that we opened last fall. So 9th graders, we bring in businesses, we partner, we take kids out on field trips. We have them discover their strengths. What are their passions? What is it that they may be interested in? And then we're bringing it to our high school, and we're allowing we have the students choose to be a part of one of two academies for 10th through 12th grade. So no longer are students in our high school taking classes because they're looking through the course catalog and saying, oh, I might want to do this, or I'll try this. We have organized them in a way around different career clusters so they can really understand and begin to develop a sense of understanding about themselves and what they may want to do after high school. So one of our academies is the Academy of Industry, Technology, and Innovation. And then students choose to take part in a particular pathway. So there are 4 pathways under that academy: the pathway of engineering and technology, innovative art and design, business, commerce, and entrepreneurship, and digital design and communication. We do not limit students to only looking at one particular career, but we cluster them around fields so that they're able to understand all of the possible careers that would be opportunities for them. So you can see through, in this ITI Academy, students would then take classes in 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. It also allows them to earn college credit while they're still in high school through some AP or certifications. And that's one of our goals in Centerline, is that every student who graduates from Centerline High School will either have college credit or an industry recognized certificate. So you'll see under each of those pathways some of those certificates.
One of the things that we saw as educators is the battle with engagement in school. Schools look like they did a long time ago, and we knew that kids were showing us that they weren't engaged. We also had students telling us that they didn't see the relevancy. And we have students now. I had 2 students come in to interview me for the school newspaper. And I said, well, before we do that, tell me what you think of the Academies. One of the kids turned around, and this is a child that I have been involved with and have been involved with his family. He said, well, I didn't know schools were supposed to help you get your career. And that really struck me because that's exactly what we want to do, and that's what we're seeing is happening. We're kind of the launch pad for their future, for career.
So a big part of our academies is business partnerships, or just partnerships in general. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been making a strong push to partner with our cities that we sit within, Centerline and Warren, and we've made a lot of progress there. And that's another reason why we're here today, because partnerships are the name of the game when it comes to Centerline. Annually, we hold a board meeting with the city of Centerline, a co-board meeting between the school board and the city. The Iron Bell Trail that's coming from Belle Isle and will hopefully end up in Ironwood, I believe it is, Michigan, and cuts through Macomb County. With our bond work, they're going to meander that through our district, which is pretty exciting. Little Centerline is going to have this Iron Bell Trail right through it, through Macomb County. The business partners that you see here on the ITI slide for Next Generation Learning, Crest Ford that sits right across the street from our high school, FANUC and TACOM, a lot of these organizations are organizations that I hear about from the county all the time in economic development discussions. So we're really fortunate in Centerline to have these same business partners right here within our district. And what we really focus on is, what do you need from us? Because it's not what the business partners can do for us, but what we can do for our business partners. And I kind of get that flavor from our county as well. What can we do for you? It's the same philosophy that we have with our kids. What is it that you want to do with your future, and how do we help you get there? That's always our focus in Centerline.
Excellent.
One of the most important things that we do with our partners is to really immerse kids in the day, a day in the life of somebody on the job, because trying to make a decision about what direction they want to take post-high school is very difficult if they're only learning through books or they see a few presenters come in. So we actually have partnered with all of these businesses, and we send our kids out for job shadowing. We send our kids out for internships. We just secured a partnership with Ascension Health and had to go through lots and lots of, jump through lots of hoops to allow students to go on site. But they need to see that there are thousands of jobs in the medical field in those hospitals, and it's not just a doctor or a nurse. There's many, many things they could be doing, and that really affords them the opportunity to see firsthand what it looks like. The other thing that I think has been really powerful are these businesses allow our staff to come out. So we send our core staff out, and they go to FANUC Robotics, and they see where math is being applied. So when they're in front of their kids, they can reference that. We have, Centerline is rich in manufacturing and engineering, and we have lots of business and industry. We have 2 skilled trade schools that are within a few miles of our high school. So we're taking kids through Local 80, we're taking kids through the electrical apprenticeship school. People are speaking with them, our teachers are visiting. It's really been powerful because as a superintendent, as I saw kids cross the stage, I know those kids, I've been there 30 years, and I grieved the fact that you know, they got through, but I wasn't sure if we had given them a clear path to a future that was sustainable.
Very good. Well, we've got some commissioners want to speak. Commissioner Romano, you're first.
If I had gold stars, I'd put it on each of your foreheads. And I mean that sincerely. It's time. It's about time. What you're doing is absolutely outstanding. And I mean that from my heart. The kids today don't know what they want to do. Then you mentioned that they look at the curriculum that they have at school and they say, how am I going to use this in everyday life? What do I need this for? Getting them on the job, so to speak. Let them see what they like, what type of flavor they like. Honestly, I could stand up here all day and commend you people for what you're doing. I wish this would branch out to the other school districts. It's a tremendous idea that I think needs to be planted and seeded and watered, and it has to grow, because this is a fantastic idea that you're doing. My congratulations to you.
Thank you. We're being
Thank you very
invited
much.
to present all over the state. We presented at a federal conference, but it's just not something that a lot of districts, you know, have. We have people coming to visit from all over the state.
Thank you. Commissioner Dujay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's about time. I've been screaming for years about skilled help and the fact that there is no skilled help, about running machines, about, you know, other things in the manufacturing world. A lot of districts got rid of their shop, got rid of their machines, got rid of everything else. I commend you on your initiatives for this. Not everybody is made out to be a social studies or political science major and so on and so forth. But that being said, you should be commended for what you're doing, how you're doing it. I think it's a plus for the students, and I think it's a plus for the business community at hand, because there is no skilled help. The skilled help that was out there has either moved, retired, or died.
We just received a $105,000 grant from MDE to add welding back into our building in the fall.
My point exactly. Quick question about Fanuc. Does Fanuc have a facility in Centerline?
You know, they, about 6 years ago, I got a call, and they had just kind of started the education arm of Family.
Okay.
So she called me and said, somebody recommended you because they said that you still think the CTE programs are important. And we went out there and we were able to purchase a $350,000 current machine used in industry for $35,000. And then I was able to send, and then we bought another one, a CNC machine for like $48,000. It was $480, currently used in industry. And then we were able to send 2 teachers out to become certified FANUC trainers, so they can now actually certify our students if they get through all the modules.
Perfect. I think this is marvelous. Congratulations. Keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, there's Commissioner Sauger?
Yeah, I've visited the the carpenter's place in there. It's first class, and I'm very proud of you because I've known people who have come out of there. Some have gone on to the college to become instructors. But it took an awful lot of convincing from you 3 people to have Commissioner Romano say something nice about Centerline.
Not true.
Thank you very much. Been motion made and supported. Please vote, receive and file. Thank you very much. Continued success.
We'd love to give you a tour. Our information's on the back. We'd love
Thank
to
you.
show you around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Item 9B, Macomb County Monthly Renovations Report.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon to update you on the downtown campus renovation project. Currently, we have one project that's in progress at the Circuit Court. Right now, we're in transition. We're finishing up the 5th floor. We're actually in process of shuffling staff members around. We're bringing people off and on from the 6th floor onto from the 4th floor and onto the 5th floor. The report I have here for you today, most of these items are actually complete. This was drafted about 2 weeks ago. We're down to about, we're in the punch list process for the space. We're down to about 12 items. I spoke with the Clark Construction Superintendent prior to the meeting. We anticipate that those items should be down to about 4 or 5 by Friday. And then by the time the move is completed next week, all those items should be complete. One item I just wanted to mention, I'm sure you are aware, when you're renovating an existing building, it's always quite the task to shuffle people around and coordinate and make sure that we keep systems online so that everybody can conduct their everyday business. And I just wanted to recognize the court administrator, Julie Bovenchin, and her team have been very, very instrumental in making sure that these transitions happen successfully and without issue. Her team, including John Neisel, Edie Labarge, Anthony June, they've all been very, very helpful in making these transitions happen. So I wanted to make sure that they got some recognition. We're currently, as I stated, we're currently wrapping up the 5th floor. We'll be proceeding, and also we're wrapping up the south side of the 1st floor, the clerks area. Those areas will be occupied and live at the end of next week, more specifically on the 28th. And then we'll be moving on to the 4th floor. That renovation is slated to start right away. And right now the schedule is trending that will be complete towards the end of June, June 22nd, not to be too specific. We also have the basement renovation that's going on, that's in progress, and that portion of the project is slated to be completed in November of this year. And with that is my update for you today.
All right, thank you, Andy. Let's see, questions? Mr. Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You heard the presentation from Lynn
Yes.
earlier on the
Yep.
HAVAC system she had to get?
Yep.
You guys did not have that in your plans, any kind of,
That scope was not covered in our project, no.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Thanks for the good project and process, and keep us posted.
Okay, thank you.
Need a motion to receive and file. Moved by Commissioner Majek, supported by Commissioner Sauger. All those please vote. Thank you very much. Any new business? Chairman Smith?
Thank you. Just a reminder again about Thursday's General Assembly for SEMCOG. It is being held at Macomb Community College, Lorenzo Cultural Center. The registration starts at 3. The executive session starts at 4:30. I would like to at least throw it out there that maybe we start our meeting a little bit early on that day. And I don't know, I mean, if there's a problem with it, but let me know if we could do maybe an hour early on Thursday, if that's a possibility, just so that those of us that are going to go to this can actually get there and represent our county. Does anyone want to make a motion? I mean, I don't know how we. I would like to have our meeting start an hour early to give us a chance at 2 o'clock.
Well, just don't get crazy, man. Let's throw the schedule up. I mean,
Listen, I think we're going to settle a lot of stuff on. Yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for someone to make that.
2 o'clock.
Yes. Hold on.
How positive are you on the time? Because I thought it started earlier for.
Right.
I have it right here. It says 3 p.m. registration, 3:45 executive committee elections, and 4:30 is the business meeting. So, I mean, everything on this says 3 o'clock is a starting time for registration. Well, Jim, this is SEMCOG's, flyer. So, I mean, I don't know.
I understand. I think that was for the public, because I thought there was a business meeting before that, and I was gonna ask to be excused, but I'll double check and get the right information. I'm trying to look it up.
If there's a meeting at 2 o'clock Thursday.
I support.
You got it?
One.
You got to support.
All right, hold on.
Motion, we do it at 1.
I have a motion for 1 o'clock meeting. Any support on that? Commissioner Sauger. Now, this is a changed meeting if we do this, so obviously if anyone has any other commitments and they miss.
The only thing is at 1:30, I mean, at 12 o'clock, believe it or not, they do it. I got a bankruptcy hearing at noon.
Like I said.
I want to be here at 1, I don't want to miss a meeting. This is really 1:30?
Tell it 2 o'clock. This is 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Want to split the difference, 1:30? Make a motion. Commissioner Duge, you willing to change to 1:30? Okay, Sauger, Mr. Sauger, you willing to amend your second to 1:30?
Make it to the dinner special at 3 o'clock.
All right. I think we've had enough discussion.
1:30?
Anybody that would like, we're gonna vote on the meeting on Thursday being moved to 1:30.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, are the people from CMH coming? I mean, we told the people.
Well, we will get with them if there's,
They'll have to comply.
Well, how about this? Wednesday will be still 18 hours we can do it. You want me to talk to them between now and then? We'll have 18 hours to move this meeting, but in the meantime, we know that everybody's okay with 1:30. I will schedule it, and if there's a big conflict with one of our presenters,
Okay.
we won't do it. But otherwise, I will hold this vote on Wednesday, knowing where we're at right now with it.
Very good, thank
So
you.
Thursday, 1:30?
we're going to look at that, but we will make the decision on Wednesday because I have to contact some of the people coming to that meeting that are not us.
Any other new business?
Hold on.
Thursday.
Well, yes. They will, and we'll vote and move that to finance. How's that?
Okay, Thursday.
All right. Who-
Okay. Very good.
That's it.
All right. Need
Oh,
a
yes, the vote passed 11-1.
public participation. See no one from the public. Need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Ducey, supported by Commissioner Gillette. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.